and another truck, and another truck, and another truck. I hope this whole video is not going to be about driving behind trucks, but that's going to suck. Nah, not a chance. So I've had my Harley for a year now. I bought it last year March, and it is now April, and I have been tinkering on my favorite bike for the better part of a year. And this is pretty much the first decent long run that I've done with the bike. I mean, I've done a couple of 200k runs, but today I am doing a 400k one-way run. I'm going to go have a look what's happening in northern Natal, and then I'm going to turn around and come back home. And I am really excited to see what this bike does. The only annoyance is I normally don't ride with a shield on, and I put the shield on. I actually redesigned the shield and made it adjustable, then changed the shield with polycarbonate. But yes, I'm getting a lot of buffering off of the shield, so yeah, I'm going to stop and I'm just going to adjust this shield. And then through the trip I'm going to talk about all the weird and wonderful things that I did on the bike. And what makes it interesting is I actually didn't buy anything. So pretty much anything on the bike that I fixed, I machined myself, I cast myself, and I'm looking forward to doing a trip like this and just discussing my hobby and the stuff that I do. And let's be honest, you don't get better than this. Oh, okay, this buffering is bad. Yeah, I'm stopping and fixing this right now. Yeah, all right, let me fix up this windshield. So interesting, one of the things that I did fix on my bike is this very, very cool toolbox. When I got it, this lock wasn't working, so I had to make a couple of the pins inside because this key would just fall out. In fact, I didn't get any keys with the bike, so fixing that up was cool. And then what I did do is everything uses a standard half-inch or 13mm spanner, so I can take these bags off.
So these bags were really horrible to get off of the bike. They had a system like this, where this went through the rear fender and there was a nylon sort of lock nut at the back, and you had to get your hand in between the tire and the rear fender to loosen this whole system. And there was no way to get the bag off because the actual bolt that went into the back here was completely hidden. So you would need to take the bag off just to get to that bolt to strip the whole system off. So I changed it around, and I have a bolt that's sort of permanently at the back that has a locking nut on, and then this just goes and screws onto that. So this system comes off and on, and I can have whatever sort of look that I want the bike to have. I think this works really, really well.
Without worrying too much, and everything that you would typically use for touring comes off really, really easy just with one spanner, and that makes life so much easier. And let's see if we can just sort out this buffering quickly. I think it just needs to be adjusted by a fraction. Something like that. Because what was happening was hitting the top of my head. So let's see how this works. I don't want to move it up because that's not necessary. And I do just want to take away some of that wind buffering. So originally these were cap screws, and I actually machined new pins in there The one side is the UNF, and then metric on the other side. So then I can put these nice stainless steel dome nuts. Yeah, that should do it. Let's see how she goes now. There we go. And that was quick and easy. Quick, just that little bit of adjustment. I have no more wind buffering. I just need to dodge these potholes. Yeah, cool. So that worked out lekker. So wind buffering, tick, sorted. Just needed the slightest little bit of adjustment. Yeah, that was a bit annoying. Wait. This is not the easiest bike to throw around to miss potholes, I'll tell you that much. But she's a lot of fun. And there we have Standerton, or driving into Standerton, the first little dorpie on my trip. And that over there is a Standerton prison, which has been there ever since, well, who knows, ever since I've been in this part of the country. Oh, now this little town used to be such a vibrant town. They had all the chicken farms over here, and I believe they're still here. On the right hand side here. What was it? Taxidermy. Yes, that's been there ever since I was a young appy. Speaking of that cast bar, the original bar that came with the bike, or the clamp for the handlebars, they make them out of some other die-cast zinc, and the one that was on the bike was actually cracked. So I redesigned it, and I cast a aluminium wheel, or melted an aluminium wheel, and cast a couple of those. And I thought it would be nice to machine a nice little insert for a clock. And that's worked really well. The softer aluminium bites the knurling on the bars, and these bars haven't budged at all since I put that thing on. And then of course, because you made it, you can put the stainless steel bolts on, so they last a lot longer than the galvanized that the bike normally comes with. It just means you need to now have a extra metric spanner in your toolkit, but that's all right. Yeah, can't get over how nice this road is. Well done, Standerton Municipality. Nicely done. Well, the good thing is, after all the little bits and pieces that I did on the bike, it's still going. It hasn't broken down yet, which is always a good sign. And the buffering is way better, so sorting out this visor has made the ride a whole lot more comfortable. Thank goodness it was adjustable. Yo, can you imagine I had to sit for 400 Ks with my head bouncing around all over the place? It would be terrific. So it's interesting, I actually don't need to stop for petrol, but I would rather have 150 Ks extra in the tank, just in case of an emergency. And it's a nice place to stop and stretch legs and have some lunch, which I packed, of course. That's Snowy's biltong. Apparently you get good biltong there. or used to anyway. I've just crossed into KZN, and I'm about to go down Majuba Pass, which is one of my favorite parts of the country, so I'm looking forward to that. Some nice twisties on the Harley. The Blackbird does that nicely. I'm curious to see what the Harley does. It's actually more fun going up than going down. Yeah, not really keen to be stuck behind a truck. I mean, this is the best part of the trip. But it looks like there's quite a few trucks on the road. Hey, little guy, you lost. It always scares me driving around or behind a truck like this and you actually smell stuff burning. It's like, is that the brakes or the wheels or the clutch? Actually, it smells like tires, actually. Yep, I'm not staying behind you, buddy. Definitely something burning there. So, one of the things that I have fixed on my bike is when I changed from the spokes to the disc rim at the back, just for the meantime while I was rebuilding the spokes, and that tire is still going strong. So I haven't put the spoke wheel that I rebuilt back onto the bike. But just while I did that, I noticed that the rim was actually getting a bit warm, and it was the disc brake, and it was rubbing just a fraction, wasn't letting go. And it turned out that the sort of linear bearings or bushes, whatever you want to call them, they were sticking ever so slightly. And what Harley did was they used rubber for the linear bearing that the pin slides on, which makes sense because the cylinder needs to sort of have a little bit of movement, but rubber doesn't last all that long. So I mean, 20 years the bike's been going or standing looking at the kilometers, but rubber doesn't, sort of time kills rubber, not driving. And look, they actually didn't have those little replacement rubbers in the country, and ordering them was quite an expensive exercise. So I decided to redesign them, and we use a white plastic, the same PTFE tape that you put on tap threads and stuff for the steam locomotives, and it seals really, really well. But they also use it for really? Yes, the guy in front just dumped a whole lot of stuff out of the window. Well done, CG04ZB. You polluting. Oh, you gotta honk for that. Dumbass.
So it's these pins over here that were getting stuck. And what was happening is originally they had these rubber sort of sliders, and the back end would perish and then break off, and then water would get in there and the pin would seize because of the rust. So you can actually see it goes all the way through, and that white is the PTFE that I replaced it with. So I replaced it with the PTFE, which is an industrial low friction bearing plastic, and it works incredibly well. They use it for lifts and all sorts of applications, and these brakes haven't given me a minute of hassle. And the back brake and the rim stays nice and cool, which is good.
So I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he laughed at me. He says, I'm the only guy that buys a Harley and then changes all of the branding on the bike to my own branding. Yeah, why not, eh? Well, in fairness, I still kept it to the Harley sort of look, and I kept the branding on the bike because it is a Harley. I just made the branding my own little unique branding. Oh, no, I think it looks quite nice. And that, of course, was all done with a little bit of copper sulfate and a cell phone charger. And a toner printer. That's all that you need, really. And a little bit of imagination, of course. So it's interesting, I made the badges from pieces of aluminium that my grandmother actually used for the edging of her garden. So when I told her the other day that I'd used the aluminium edging to do the branding for my bike, and I actually showed it to her on the bike, she didn't believe me. So lots of things are made on the bike. You can see the shafts are made, these things are made, these are made. Yeah. So everything that was broken I made.
Yeah. Where are you going now?
Joburg. So those of you guys who have seen some of my other bike videos will know that I've got two bikes. Well, I actually have three, but one's a vintage. I have a Blackbird and I have this Harley Davidson Softail. And the Blackbird, I changed the uprights for the handlebars just to make it a little bit more comfortable, because the riding position on the Blackbird is not great. I mean, you sit a little bit far forward. And I used to do this trip with the Blackbird, and I've done this trip twice now. When I got the bike once, and now that I've fixed up everything on the bike, I'm doing it again. And I tell you what, I'd rather be on the Harley, that's for sure. The riding position is so much nicer on the Harley. It's like, it really is just sitting back and enjoying. And although the Blackbird's a much smoother bike, the suspension is a lot harder, so the engine is a lot smoother. You don't get much of the sort of feedback from the engine on the Blackbird other than just sheer power. But the Harley, definitely you feel a little bit of the engine, but the suspension is so much lighter. And then of course the Blackbird has just got insane power. The Harley's got torque, decent torque, and it'll get me around a car if I need to. Drop a gear and she'll pull off nicely, get me to where I need to go. With a Blackbird, I would be like there somewhere, you know. I would just, there's 6 trucks, oh no, that's fine. There's a car there, oh no, I'll get there before the car. The Harley, you can't really do that. I mean, the Harley sort of is like an old girl, just slowly, and then she's happy. But if you drop a gear and crank her, she'll jump to action. Where the Blackbird's 6th gear, you open that throttle and it jumps to action. It's actually interesting, both the Blackbird and the Harley are very similar years. They're late 90s models. And, chalk and cheese. But it's weird how much I enjoy the Harley more than the Blackbird. I suppose it is what it is, eh? So I'm just heading into Majuba Pass. I'm doing it the up way now. Hey, how's it, guys? And I am just cruising. So it's speed limit is 80. I'm just doing 80, just cruising nicely. I've never understood why people want to go, like they go on a tour on a bike and then they speed. You just have less time on the bike. You get to where you're going quicker and then you sit wherever you are. That's just pointless. Much rather be on a bike, eh? So it's almost like eating a dessert. You need to savor it. Take your time. It'll be interesting to compare my fuel consumption with the Shield or with or without the Shield with one of my other shorter runs. I have a suspicion it's not going to make that much difference. It's either the Shield or my body. The Shield has got better curves than my body, so it might actually do better, but we'll see.
Alright, so there's probably a little bit more to the good fuel consumption that I got on the bike. One of the first things I did was I changed the springs in these vented caps. The left one I actually took out all the venting and I blocked it off completely. But on this one I changed the spring to slightly more positive so that the tank runs at a slightly higher pressure. And the reason why I did that is modern day fuels have got a slightly higher volatile or fuming point. So running the tanks at a higher pressure is actually worthwhile, provided of course you don't bypass the vacuum petcock, which I did check the vacuum petcock spring and I made sure that it balanced nicely. And then one of the cool things I do is when I get home after a long run, I put a shield in between the engine and the petrol tank, and I just made this from the standard automotive windshield, sort of heat the sun shield to make sure that your dash doesn't get damaged. And this works really, really well. That improved my fuel consumption quite a bit because I was losing fuel with the engine heating up the petrol tank, specifically when the bike was standing. And then I changed the actual air filter on the bike. I redesigned the air filter. It had a completely different system on that I didn't like at all. So I bought a second-hand 103 air filter, and I think it looks really cool on the bike. The bike has a Japanese carb, and the Japanese carb works pretty well, a lot better than the Harley carbs. And you can see I redesigned the venting system for the bike, and it goes to a catch can in the frame, and you'll see the results of or how much oil I got out of the catch can. That worked quite well. The whole air filter is clear of everything, so it gets nice air ingress, and also it's away from the engine, so the cooling of the engine is pretty good, which is what I was looking for. I think all in all, this system worked really, really well, and it was nice and comfortable. My leg wasn't sort of obstructed with the air filter. This worked well.
Oh, there she goes. This bike's a lot of fun. Sharp turn. Not to worry, I'm on a Harley. And yes, you can lie a Harley. Don't let anyone tell you any different, as long as you don't scrape the bags or the foot pegs. So what I try and do is I try and keep to the speed limit, no matter what the twisties look like, and then you have lots of fun. Because you're not pushing the bike, you're in your comfort zone, and it's just oh, shame. Car got a bit of a fright there. You can't run in front of me, little guy. So it's interesting, it's 10 to 10 on a Saturday, and it's actually, the town is quite quiet because this is sort of most of the town. I expected it to be a little bit busier than this. I must admit, I'm not really a fan of driving around in these small little dorpies when it's very busy, because it's a sort of a free-for-all in town. You need to make sure that no one crashes into you and you don't crash into anyone that sort of jumps in front of you. So that's the end of my little trip, my first proper test of my 97 Harley Davidson. And what a lacquer trip it was. I actually find myself sort of taking it easy the last 100 k's because I'm just enjoying being on the bike, to be honest. Who would have thought an old Harley could give so much fun, eh? It's almost sad to go home. Well, on the upside, when I get home, I'm going to start preparing for the next trip. And I'm looking forward to that.
Right, so I've just got home and I have drained the catch can after my trip, which was a good 800 k's, and that's what came out of the catch can. There's a little bit of water. Actually, there's not a lot of oil, so that's not bad. But look, I mean, I don't know if you want that in your filter and in your engine. So that is 800 k's. A little bit of water and some emulsified oil. This catch can works really well. I'm quite chuffed.